realization of the Federal Medical Center Lokoja, the Ondo State Governor's test of the coronavirus disease, COVID-19 current updates in Nigeria, and the federal government's decision to ease interstate movement outside curfew hours with effect from today. We begin with the first update that protesters today stormed the Federal Medical Center Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, destroying the administrative block and cutting away computers and files reportedly related to COVID-19. The protesters, numbering about 50, arrived on the premises with placards and dangerous weapons. The rationale behind the demonstration was not unconnected to the management of the coronavirus disease in the state. The intervention of men of the State Police Command, however, prevented the situation from escalation. The governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, has tested positive to the coronavirus disease. He now joins the list of top public officials that have contracted the virus. This was personally confirmed by the governor through a tweet post on his official Twitter handle yesterday. According to the post, "Today I tested positive for COVID-19. All is well. I'm asymptomatic and I've been self-isolating. Work continues. Your continued prayers over my well-being are most appreciated." The governor said that he had malaria a few days ago and was treated. However, after the National Executive Council of his party, the APC, one of his colleagues advised he should have a coronavirus test. He said the result came out yesterday and he tested positive. However, the government pointed that he was asymptomatic and is yet to show any symptom of the disease. He said although he's not feeling sick or odd in any way, his doctors advised that he should take the normal treatment and self-isolate, as he believes that supervised home management will be ideal for him for now. Akeredolu also assured that work will be going on as he will be attending to files at home. The Ondo State Governor will be the latest high-profile Nigerian to have contracted the disease. The immediate past governor of Oyo State, Senator Abiola Ajimobi, passed away last week after a serious illness due to complications from the coronavirus disease. On the COVID-19 update in Nigeria, the spread of the novel coronavirus disease has touched a new milestone in the country, as revealed in the latest statistics provided by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Yesterday, 561 new cases were confirmed and 17 deaths were recorded, having carried out a total daily test of 1,953 samples across the country. Today, 25,694 cases have been confirmed, 9,745 cases have been discharged, and 590 deaths have been recorded in 35 states and the Federal Capital Territory, and a total of 134,257 tests have been carried out. In a move to combat the spread of the pandemic disease, the federal government on Monday, 29 June 2020, extended the second phase of the ease lockdown by 4 weeks and approved interstate movements outside curfew hours with effect from today. We go on a quick break now, and when we return, we discuss this development with my colleague, Mr. Osuabasi Abasekong. Stay tuned. Welcome back. As I said, I have with me on the show today my colleague, Mr. Osuabasi Abasekong, who is joining us to engage on the current developments of the pandemic in Nigeria, how it affects the populace, and the outlook for the second half of the year. Mr. Osuabasi, it's great to have you with us on the program today.
Thank you very much, Taiwan. Happy new month to you.
Happy new month to you as well. So, based on the last story I just read, there's been the easing of the lockdown, allowing for interstate travel as at from today. Do you think, in your own view, do you think the time is now to start that, considering the fact that there have been increase on cases daily?
First, I would like to say that I would like to condemn the action that we've seen, as we read, from Kogi State, where the Federal Medical Center Lokoja was attacked, because that's a health facility, and we have medical workers, doctors, nurses, and other health workers who are putting their life on the line to assist, attend to people, attend to patients. So that act, I want to condemn it, and I hope that proper investigation will be carried out, because it's unacceptable in this time. We should not endanger those medical staffs and the facilities there at this period where we need to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I'm going to your question about the federal government's decision to ease interstate movements. It came to me as a surprise, but of course, data is driving these decisions. As you can see, we are doing more tests. Over 130,000 sample tests have been carried out now, and we have 25,000 confirmed cases plus, and over 500 deaths now. And if you look at the recoveries, 9,746. So the federal government also decided that the various layers of the final year students in primary schools, primary 6, in JSS 3 and SS 3 should resume and conclude their exams. So in that extent, that may be part of the reasons why they will reopen, because, I mean, most of these students, for example, unity schools, we have over 108 unity schools, and most of them will go by road to their schools across the country. And that will influence even the teachers and all that. So that may be part of the reasons why they're easing. But for me, I feel that health and safety is very important. So it's a balance between health and economy. That's very important at this time in Taiwan. And we need to continue to strengthen the infrastructure of healthcare. We need to also work with data. That's very key. Because with what we're seeing now, 18 local governments is being reported are going to be on the spotlight. Government is going to be watching those 18 local governments because they are spike epicenter cases. And so if that's the case, then that shows that efforts have to be taken seriously to contain the spike of the pandemic. So for me personally, I'm surprised. I mean, I wasn't expecting that they would ease the interstate, but definitely there's a reason, and I think part of it will be the fact that schools are resuming for the final levels to write their common entrance exam at primary school, to write the JSS junior secondary exams and the senior secondary. That would be part of that.
But I think it also boils down to the fact that we need to help ourselves essentially, because I personally feel that the scenario where there shouldn't really have to be a lifting of the lockdown. These students could write their exams online if we are in a, if I really don't want to point out to the government, but if generally as a society we are more digitally informed, we are growing anyway, and hopefully we'll definitely get there. But now we've just identified the students being the reasons for, there's also been talks on increasing of the fears due to it. What's your perception on that?
That will likely be the case, because prior to the lockdown, we saw some spike.
Yes, definitely.
And so we will expect that there should be cooperation, particularly amongst vehicle transport owners. We know that the God is Good Motors are among the biggest of them. We have GU, Opera Transport, ABC, and the rest. There should be that form of engagement across the state governments and across the nation. We have the National Union of Road Transport Workers. We have the Road Transport Employees Association of Nigeria. So those groups should be able to meet to look at how they can mitigate the challenge, because already Nigerians are facing their own challenge. We are going through a pandemic. Many businesses are not really earning as before, and so people are not being paid even full salary. You have cuts in pay, and so you now have to manage additional hike in transport. That will be real pressure for Nigerians. So there's that place for negotiation and consideration of the economic situation in the country in terms of the interstate transport. But looking at the easing of the lockdown in terms of interstate transport, the major concern for me is maintaining that balance with health. So for all the motor companies, they have to adhere strictly to the procedure. And then putting on your face mask on the road for maybe 8 or 9 hours again. So the spacing,
but
how would
really,
that be
let's
done?
look at it. Is that really visible? Because I know some couple of weeks back there was the guidelines also that public transportation, you should have, I think, no more than 2 people on the seat you should use. But those guidelines are not being followed today.
Of course, I mean, it's a challenge because it's more of survival now. So if you're going to, for example, ABC will definitely want to adhere, GIG Motors and others, but for those other transport outlets that for example, Lagos to Ibadan, there are some parks that people just go in and so are they going to follow that guidelines? So how are state governments going to ensure that the motor parks adhere? From the motor parks, there's sanitizers, everybody follows the procedures, the protocols. I mean, if that is not done, we're going to see a massive spike on this, and that's a major concern. But some improvement I'm seeing is the issue of data. We're beginning to see the Nigeria Center for Disease and Control work more with private sector And that's why, like in Lagos now, we have over 6 private testing labs in the state, which we would, in the course of this, I believe the Web TV team will try to explore what's happening there, because that would be an opportunity for private sector, for workers to even go and do tests.
Exactly.
Because the more we test, we get aware. Like now you've seen that we've done over 130,000 sample tests, and we have 25,000 cases. And then the area of the myth, I mean, we have to demystify this COVID-19. That's a challenge in Nigeria. A lot of people still believe it's not real. And look at it. We have 6 state governors now.
Yes.
The first 3, Senator Bala Mohammed of Bauchi. The second was Governor Nasser Rufai, and then Sheyi Makinde. Those 3 have recovered. But now we have Governor Okezi Ikpeazu of Abia. We have Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State. And just now, we just got the update of Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta, him and his wife, the first lady. So it's not a joke, it's real.
And you even had the governor,
the former governor of Oyo State, Senator Abiola Ajimobi.
Although he had underlying conditions.
Yes, underlying conditions. That's what it's not a joke, it's real. And so we have to take it seriously, head on. We have to show that this thing is real. And showing that it's real is that the measures we take, whether it's in, for now, we have not opened up the churches, the religious worship centers, the mosque, and then schools. How the schools are going to be open for these final year exams at the primary, secondary, and senior, junior secondary and senior. How it's managed would be very critical. If it's poorly managed, there will be a spike. And then the other level is the awareness. We have to increase the awareness. And that's another issue, because if you look at the major parks, if you look at the way people are operating in Lagos, which is the most populated city in Nigeria, it's a concern interacting with people. Various transport vehicles are not really following the guide, like you say. So we need to talk more with the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers across the country. They need to sensitize more. Then at the markets, people say, oh, the markets are really full. There's no physical distancing measures followed. I
was just around the Alakpere axis about a week ago, and then I was telling my husband was in the car, and I was telling him the way they were. It was. I couldn't even just find. And I was looking, and there's no consciousness of the fact that the next person standing beside you could actually have it. Because some people don't have symptoms, just the way we saw with Governor Akeredolu. So it's not visible. It's not something you can tell. So just like the markets, I was really surprised. I was really surprised, I have to tell you. And then, like you said, not just the market, the schools, resumptions. How are these students going to be? I think for schools, that I think it can be managed, because not all the students will be available. And then there's a place of officials actually going in to check.
I remember in secondary school when we were the only ones, you know, during secondary school when you're doing JSS, other people would have clothes, we're just staying back for mock.
Yes, exactly.
So we had that experience, and of course, I remember that when we were doing a junior secondary school exam, preparatory, we had the whole school to ourselves. So there was an ability to monitor at least more compared to the whole school. That is how we expect. So the issue of data comes to play, Taiwo. Each state needs to know how many secondary schools they have that data, and then provide all those conditions, sanitizers, conditions and all that. If not, we'll have community transmission, and that's the worst.
We're already in the face already.
Yes,
but
we're in the face, and
escalating beyond.
I mean, for example, there are a lot of community secondary schools across the country in villages. So if you're opening those ones, how do they follow the guidelines and protocols? That would be a major challenge. And so you talked about digital education, digital learning. That is where governors have to embrace broadband infrastructure, right of way. Only 3 state governors now have done that, shown the policy step, the encouragement. Governor John Kaide Fahimi of Ekiti State, Governor Nasser Rufai of Kaduna, and Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak. The 3 other state governors need to come on board. What are you doing in terms of broadband? Because when that infrastructure is there, you can now begin to talk about digital learning in a broader way. So you can work with your State Ministry of Education. They can develop all those platforms and reach out to more people for learning, for most students. So if that is not done, digital learning will still be at the theoretical level. It will just be 23% impact compared to what would have achieved like 80%. We have a huge population using mobile phones. We have internet penetration. So that's something that has to be taken seriously. And then the issue of health and economy is very important at this time. In the US, if you see the director of Institute of Allergy and Diseases, I know sometimes when I'm on program, I mention his name, Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci. He's talked about the fact that, yes, you want to open the American economy, but we must be conscious that this disease is still on and it's taking a lot of lives. America had over 40,000 single cases in a day.
Yes.
So yes, the economy must reopen, but that balance is very important. So the same should happen here in Nigeria. That consciousness, that balance is a major challenge of health and economy.
Yes.
You know that our economy grew at 1.87%. We need to create jobs. The federal government has rolled out the economic sustainability plan.
Yes.
They're looking at mass housing, mass agro. They're looking at 704,000 jobs across local governments, which is going on debates now because there are allegations of people trying to hijack the process. But in all those activities, we must consider the health situation in the country. You know, I mean, initially we felt that this pandemic would really ease by May, June.
Exactly.
But we're in July now, and churches and religious centers are not reopening. Event centers, I mean, the creative industry is challenged because you don't have live shows. You're not going to have cinemas up yet. Some countries are beginning to reopen gradually. They're watching it, but there are spikes, so they have to come back and place stringent measures.
Yeah, and I'm aware that the UK reopening their economy, but
they're looking at reopening pubs and the UK gradually.
Even opening their economy for travel. There have been bans on some countries having access into their country.
Even the world of football, which is a big sport, you can see that all the leagues where they're playing football matches, the stadium is empty. So that experience is not really there. There's consciousness. I mean, Leicester City is a club. In Leicester City, we just heard that there was a spike. So they said the Leicester will go on with their match, but they want to ensure that they can manage. That's what we should see more in Nigeria. Fine, there are spikes, but how you manage it is very important.
So we don't have a second phase.
The second phase will ensure that we know we're still on the spike, 25,000. So if we don't manage the reopening of schools for the final years in primary, secondary, and secondary level for now, if we don't manage it very well, I know teachers, the Nigerian Union of Teachers have expressed their concerns. Academic Staff Union of Universities have expressed their concerns too. You know, schools are major places that can trigger this.
Yes.
I think in the US and UK, they're not really thought about schools fully reopening.
Exactly.
So those of us that we have relations abroad, they've been sharing their experience. It's more of digital experience. So that's
because
something
they're actually children, and then their immune systems might not have actually, well, to a large extent, because really we've been advised that the younger ones and then the older ones should be careful about being open to the virus, and then their future. We can't afford to.
It's really because if you attended boarding schools, it is now looking at the infrastructure of the schools. Private secondary schools are okay; they can manage it very well. You don't love private secondary schools; they have, but public schools, it's a boarding school, water condition, condition of even the toilets and the bathrooms, that is going to be a huge area of concern because if you know in their schools that they really share the population to toilets and bathrooms is huge. So. And population to class, a class capacity that should contain like 50 students will contain 70. So, but since we are only having the final students, it now depends on the number of students, in that like SS3. If a school has like over 120 SS3 students, then they have to be able to ensure that they follow the spacing of all the blocks they have, not compact people in classes.
But spreading them over the facilities.
Because,
I mean,
because
if they
it's
can
very
spread
important.
across the other classes, hopefully we will be able to contain.
That's where the Ministry of Education has to come in, working with the Ministry of Health.
I was going to say
the
officials being able to even monitor the students and the schools that they follow the guidelines appropriately. And
if possible, if there was a way of even having test kits or facilities for them to, because you need to also test, you don't assume. But it's a huge, I mean, governance in this time is very critical, and that's why I encourage our citizens to also try and constructively engage, not abuse or attack the business of the leaders, because every president across the world is going through a challenge, trying to manage health and economy in this pandemic. It's not really an easy period. It's not an easy period.
Let's look at, I mean, we've just finished the first half. Yesterday we finished the first half of the year. We're into the second half of the year. What prospects, what do you think the economy in general will look like within the next 6 months?
Well, first, we hope that we can leverage data. Data collection has been a challenge in the country to be able to provide effective government services, be able to understand the impact of policies on the people, and also be able to understand the trajectory of how we are making progress. And then if we can ramp up data in terms of identity, it can help for the government in terms of taxation and revenue. It can also help in terms of healthcare. Our healthcare insurance is still under 2% penetration, which is poor. I mean,
Very
imagine
sad.
this period of the pandemic, people that are pregnant want to give birth, people that are sick are scared because of the fact that there is COVID
people trying
and
to
the
manage
stigma.
themselves in the house so
And
they
so,
don't get
yes.
exposed.
And so some governments have telemedicine programs like Lagos State. But you know, when you have that data across states and across the country, you know to a particular location how it's reached out. And then the management of this reopening, gradual reopening phase will be very critical for the second half of the year. Like I said, schools and the economy. So that will be a very critical way of seeing how we will make progress. And if it's managed properly from the federal to state level, then I think that will be a first step of progress. The second is policies for poor. It's good that government is looking at social intervention programs, social safety nets, the Empower programs for graduates.
Yes.
The trader money is like coming back again, yeah, for those are the traders, and also the conditional cash transfer for those that are indigent, 5,000 a month, and amongst that. Those programs, we need transparency. I need to go through a very digitalized process so we can track it, because civil society and every citizen should be able to trace and say, okay, this is the impact of what you spent. So when you say you spend 200 or 300 billion naira on social intervention, people need to be able to trace it and say beneficiaries and people, I mean, independently, without government saying, okay, these are the people, they can verify this claim. So that's very important to see the impact of that policy. And then the economic sustainability plan, if the 2.3 trillion naira stimulus, if we can get the funding, if it's transparent, it goes to the agriculture, mass housing, solar manufacturing for renewable energy. If we see digital technology strengthened, then of course the dream of seeing our economy not going to depression, but having at least a minimal negative growth, worst case of minus 0.5% is possible. But the major concerns will be jobs, because a lot of companies will face challenges for survival and they want to lay off. So government has to support those businesses. Then of course the 50 billion naira targeted facility from Central Bank of Nigeria. If those MSMEs and the households receive them and are able to utilize them effectively, it will also help stimulate activities in the economy. And those are very critical areas for the country. But then infrastructure, I mean, you can see for those of us that are monitoring what's happening in Lagos Ibadan Expressway, if we can begin to ramp up work around Lagos Ibadan Expressway and other road infrastructures and rail, it will really help in terms of the movement of them. And then public-private partnership. We're in a period where we need funds. Government cannot fund the whole economic recovery. So we need to ease the investment space. We need to ease doing business. And it's good we've seen that Corporate Affairs Commission have integrated the tax identity number process, which will help to improve that. So we need to see more efforts for this of doing business across the country, states. And if that can be achieved, it will help. Another critical issue will be the subsidy. We need clarity on the subsidy. You know, this government has been pro-poor social intervention. They don't want to carry out some very rigorous reforms that will look like it's tilting to capitalist markets. But the clarity on the subsidy removal is very important, so that people will understand and we know how it's managed. And then the issue of the electricity tariff. You know that today was to kick off, but there are issues between the Ministry of Power, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, and even the distribution companies who also want to begin to derive revenue from their investment. So that tariff issue, if resolved well too, would give us a good trajectory for the second half of the year. So issues like that are very, very important. And then for the humanitarian level, I think the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we want to encourage them, working with the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, to continue to partner with Nigerians, meaning in terms of bringing back our people that are stranded, because every Nigerian lives matter. So the efforts at bringing them back is very important. Our image is also important, apart from the economy. So I hope that we can manage that effectively. And I think the second half of the year should be positive. If there's a synergy between policy and private sector understands and works together, it will be a great. And then finally, the political space is important. You know, we've seen a lot of moves in the major party, All Progressive Party, the ruling party, and even the People's Democratic Party. So the elections in Edo State, we want to see how they can conduct a good, credible election, adhering to the guidelines of COVID-19.
19.
That should be around September, and then they'll do gubernatorial elections. So those two gubernatorial elections, they do and undo, how it is also
So
managed
managed.
effectively
Yes.
will show how robust we are, making progress in the political space. Because elections should not be an opportunity to
So,
flout
I
the
think
guidelines. You know, there was
definitely not.
an incident of the governor, Baseki, when they had this PDP, when he joined the PDP, the rally, there was no physical distancing. Those are areas that can
That are
trigger
successful, yes.
spread. So if Nigeria takes, the government is doing their best, state governments, but all stakeholders should come together to ensure that we follow the guidelines. And
Well,
hopefully we shouldn't see that spike. There was a fear from Lagos State that we may hit 100,000 by August. We don't want to hit that.
Hopefully we do not.
Because that will be a trigger, and it won't be good for economy, not be good for the country.
Not at all. I'm hopeful that the second half of the year will bring forth good things.
We're
for us, and
optimistic.
then hopefully
optimistic.
we won't enter 2021 in this state.
Definitely. A lot of people have been optimistic, but it's been an experience that people are adjusting to. We look at the fact that you will be indoors doing remote work.
Yes.
It's a new experience. For the creative industry, my heart really goes out to them because those are people that live shows, live activities, they are just home. They have to be innovative, and then schools, a lot of sectors are really hit. Aviation, particularly, aviation has gotten the worst hits. Tourism, Nigeria is still going strong, but aviation. So those sectors, pharmaceuticals too, health is very important. Let me just close with this. Accessibility to drugs in this period, and getting vaccines for the COVID-19. If we can get a breakthrough from some of the major pharmaceuticals, that would be good. So I want government to encourage them, because we are seeing what is happening in US and the UK. US is encouraging Gilead, and Gilead is doing a lot. And UK, AstraZeneca, they're also doing a lot in terms of coming up with vaccines that can sort this COVID-19 pandemic out. So Nigeria should not be left out. And hopefully when we see those vaccines flooding, we can begin to get our life back. And that's what I'm optimistic for.
But I must say, it takes everybody.
Everybody,
to
yes.
make this work. It takes everybody to ensure that we become a COVID-19 free nation and even world at large.
And that first has to come with awareness, not saying that it's a scam.
It's not a scam.
It's real.
COVID-19 is real.
Real.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much,
Taiwo.
Taiwo.
It's great having you and sharing insights on the subject.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of The Human Angle. You could send in your videos and pictures to news@poshareng.com or programs at poshareng.com, and let's share your experience and views concerning the situation we're currently in. Visit our website www.poshareng.com to get more updates from our news stories and videos. Also follow our social media platforms showing on the screen for further updates on our market reports. So tomorrow, thank you for watching. Please keep staying safe, and bye for now.